Human ships landed at Riltan settlements and began emergency evacuations. Part 5. The Fracturing. The Riltan rescue operation changed everything. For centuries, the Galactic Council had maintained control through a combination of military force and the appearance of inevitable authority. No one had seriously challenged them because everyone believed the Council was simply too powerful to oppose. Humanity had shattered that illusion in a single dramatic operation. Within weeks, the Council began to fracture along lines that had been hidden for generations. 17 species, mostly smaller ones that had suffered under Council dominance, publicly praised humanity's actions. They had watched their own people exploited, their resources taken, their autonomy diminished, all while the Council spoke empty words about cooperation and mutual benefit. Representative Volcris was the first to speak openly in the Council chambers. For 300 years, my people have paid tributes to the Council that have impoverished our worlds. We were told this was necessary for galactic security, but we see now that it was simply extortion backed by military threat. Humanity has shown that the Council's power is not absolute. Other representatives joined her. Each had their own stories of how the Council's dominant species had taken advantage of weaker members. The tales were remarkably similar. Demands for resources justified as contributions to the common good, military occupations disguised as peacekeeping, populations relocated for dubious strategic reasons. But the Council's powerful species were not willing to let their authority collapse without a fight. The Vaxel Imperium led the opposition, gathering allies among those who benefited from the existing system. The Korth Dominion, the Selenar Hierarchy, and the Draclan Empire joined them. Together, they represented 2/3 of the Council's total military strength. Imperator Threndax made a calculated decision. The Council could not afford to appear divided before humanity. Internal disagreements needed to be suppressed, and rebellious members needed to be reminded of the consequences of defiance. The Council will speak with one voice, he declared. Those species who wish to remain members will support the Council's authority. Those who prefer to side with the humans may leave, but they will leave without the protection and benefits of Council membership. It was a threat barely disguised. Leave the Council and face isolation or worse. Most of the dissenting species fell silent, unwilling to risk everything for principles. But not all of them. Volcris made her choice. My people have decided. We will withdraw from the Council and seek independent alliance with humanity and others who share our values. 16 other species followed her lead over the next few days. It was unprecedented. The Council had never faced mass defections before. President Sung Ho watched these developments with careful attention. His advisors urged him to move quickly to formalize an alliance with the defecting species. But Sung Ho wanted to ensure that humanity was not simply replacing the Council's domination with their own. We will offer an alternative, he announced to the Terran Assembly. Not a replacement for the Council, but a different kind of organization entirely. One based on equality, mutual defense, and voluntary cooperation. The Coalition for Free Species was established in a ceremony attended by representatives from 18 species. Governor Jae-hyun was elected the first chairman, largely because he was seen as someone who had stood firm against Council intimidation at New Seoul. The Coalition's charter was simple but revolutionary. Every member species had equal voting rights regardless of size or strength. Military alliances were voluntary, not mandatory. Resources shared between members were negotiated fairly, not demanded from positions of power. And most importantly, any species could leave the Coalition at any time without penalty. We are not building an empire, Jae-hyun explained at the founding ceremony. We are building something the galaxy has never seen, a true alliance of equals. Ambassador Veltara watched the ceremony from her quarters on a Council station. She had failed in her diplomatic mission, and now the galaxy was splitting apart. But as she watched the Coalition being formed, she found herself agreeing with their principles more than she agreed with the Council's response. She made a decision that would define the rest of her life. She sent a message to the Council leadership announcing her resignation. Then she sent a second message to Earth requesting asylum and offering her services to the Coalition. President Sung Ho accepted immediately. Veltara's knowledge of Council operations and military capabilities would be invaluable in the war that was coming. More importantly, her defection sent a message that even Council insiders recognized the need for change. But not everyone celebrated the coalition's formation. In the council chambers, rage and fear competed for dominance. The Vaxil representatives demanded immediate military action. Representative Torvin hammered his fist against his console, making the sound echo through the chamber. "This cannot be tolerated," he roared. 18 species have abandoned the council. If we do nothing, others will follow. The entire galactic order will collapse. Then we must make an example, said Representative Silthar of the Draklin Empire. We gather every ship we can field and crush the coalition before it can consolidate. We show the galaxy what happens to those who defy council authority. Imperator Threndax agreed. He authorized the assembly of the largest fleet in council history. Over 4,000 warships drawn from a dozen different species. It would take weeks to gather them all, but once assembled, it would represent overwhelming force. The coalition has perhaps 800 ships at most, Threndax calculated. Many of those belong to species with limited military capability. Even accounting for human technology, the outcome is not in doubt. We will destroy them, reclaim the defecting species, and restore order. The council issued an ultimatum. The coalition had 30 days to disband, return control to the council, and hand over the Riltan refugees. If they refused, the council fleet would enforce compliance through military action. President Sung Ho read the ultimatum to a joint session of the Terran Assembly and coalition representatives. His response was brief. We refuse. Those 2 words committed humanity and 17 other species to a war that military analysts across the galaxy believed they could not win. The numbers were simply too lopsided. 800 ships against 4,000. Even with human technology, the odds seemed impossible. Admiral Bora met with her senior commanders to plan their defense. Captain Minji, Wing Commander Subin, and Fleet Admiral Daewon, the same Daewon who had been rejected by the Council 4 centuries ago, now elderly but still serving, gathered around a tactical display. We cannot win a conventional war, Bora stated flatly. We will be outnumbered 5-1. Even our stealth technology and kinetic weapons will not be enough if they can simply overwhelm us with numbers. Then we fight an unconventional war, Minji suggested. We make them fight on our terms, not theirs. We use every advantage we have and exploit every weakness they show. We have 30 days to prepare, Daewon said. His voice was old but firm. I was there when the council first rejected us. I never imagined I would live to see humanity fight them directly. But now that the moment has come, I am glad. Win or lose, at least we will prove we are not the inferior species they claimed we were. While military preparations continued, Dr. Hyunwoo worked on something that might change the strategic balance. He had been experimenting with quantum mechanics for decades, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Now he believed he had discovered something that could neutralize the Council's numerical advantage. He requested a meeting with Admiral Bora and President Sung Ho. When they arrived at his laboratory, he was exhausted but excited. I need 3 weeks and access to every available resource, Hyunwoo said, without preamble. If I am successful, I can give you a weapon unlike anything the Council has seen. What kind of weapon? Sung Ho asked. I call it the Quantum Displacement Network. It creates localized disruptions in space-time that disable faster than light drives. Any ship caught in the field cannot jump to FTL. They are trapped in normal space. Bora immediately understood the implications. If we deploy these networks around key locations, we can prevent Council ships from bypassing our defenses. They would have to fight their way through instead of jumping past us. Exactly, Hyunwoo confirmed. Even better, if we activate the network while enemy ships are in mid-jump, it pulls them out of FTL at random locations. Their fleet coordination collapses. Ships end up scattered and isolated. Can you really build this in 3 weeks? Sung Ho asked. I have been working on the theory for years, Hyunwoo said. Building the actual devices will be difficult but possible if I have enough help. You will have everything you need, Sung Ho promised. Meanwhile, Ambassador Veltara worked with Coalition intelligence to identify weaknesses in the Council fleet. She knew how Council forces operated, their standard tactics, their command structures. She helped plan operations designed to exploit those weaknesses. The Council has not fought a real war in centuries, she explained to Coalition military leaders. Their forces are designed for intimidation and police actions against inferior opponents. They assume overwhelming numbers will always be decisive. That assumption is their greatest weakness. Part 4. The Galactic Crisis. The news of the Enforcement Fleet's destruction spread through the galaxy like wildfire. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained absolute authority. No species had ever successfully defied them. No force had ever defeated a Council military operation, until now. In the Council chambers, chaos reigned. Representatives shouted at each other, their voices mixing into incomprehensible noise. Some demanded immediate total war against humanity. Others urged caution and negotiation. A few quietly began calculating how this shift in power might benefit their own species. Imperator Threndax listened to the arguing for 3 hours before finally speaking. His ancient voice cut through the noise like a blade. Silence. Every representative stopped talking. "We have 3 options," Threndax said slowly. "We can launch a full invasion of human space, committing thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. We can negotiate with humanity, offering them membership in exchange for peace, or we can do nothing and watch our authority crumble as other species realize we can be defeated." Representative Torvin of the Korth Dominion immediately advocated for war. "We must crush them completely, destroy their colonies, blockade Earth, make an example that will terrify any other species considering defiance." "With what forces?" asked Representative Volcris. "The Enforcement Fleet was our best mobile strike force. It no longer exists. Building a fleet large enough to guarantee victory against human technology will take years and cost enormous resources." Chancellor Ylvera had been studying the battle footage repeatedly. She understood military strategy better than most of the Council. The humans did not win through superior numbers or firepower. They won through technology we do not possess and tactics we never anticipated. They have been preparing for this confrontation for centuries while we assumed they remained primitive. "Then we learn from this," said Representative Silthar. "We study their technology, adapt our forces, and strike when we are ready." "Or," Ylvera said carefully, "we acknowledge that humanity has earned the right to join the galactic community. We negotiate from a position of respect rather than dominance." The chamber erupted in arguments again. The idea of negotiating with a species that had just destroyed a Council fleet seemed like weakness to many representatives. But others saw the practical wisdom in it. Threndax made the decision. "We will send an envoy. If negotiation succeeds, we avoid a costly war and potentially gain access to valuable human technology. If it fails, we will have learned more about their capabilities while we prepare our military response." The choice of envoy was crucial. It needed to be someone skilled in diplomacy, but also someone humanity would respect. Threndax selected Ambassador Veltara, a Morvian diplomat known for her intelligence and her ability to find solutions where others saw only conflict. Veltara accepted the assignment with mixed feelings. She had reviewed humanity's file and found it fascinating. 400 years ago, they had been a fractured primitive species barely capable of leaving their own world. Now they had humiliated the Council's military. That kind of rapid advancement was unprecedented. Her ship arrived at Earth 3 weeks later, escorted by only 5 vessels to show peaceful intentions. Earth's defenses tracked them from the moment they entered the solar system, but no hostile actions were taken. President Sung Ho received Veltara in Geneva, where the Terran Assembly met. He was accompanied by Admiral Su Jin, Dr. Hyunwoo, and several other key advisors. The meeting was broadcast live throughout human space so everyone could witness what happened. Veltara was diplomatic and respectful. "President Sung Ho, I come as an envoy of the Galactic Council to discuss the recent events at New Sol." "You mean the battle where your enforcement fleet attempted to force human colonists from their homes?" Sung Ho replied. His tone was polite but firm. "The Council believed humans were violating the terms of your probation period. A probation period we never agreed to accept," Sung Ho pointed out. 400 years ago, you rejected our petition for membership and confined us to our solar system. We complied for centuries, but that compliance was not consent. Humanity has as much right to colonize unclaimed worlds as any other species." Veltara had expected this argument. "Nevertheless, the Council's authority is recognized throughout the galaxy. Defying that authority has consequences. As your enforcement fleet discovered," Admiral Su Jin said quietly. Veltara turned to look at the Admiral. "You understand that the fleet you destroyed was a small peacekeeping force, not our full military capability. If this escalates to total war, The Council can field thousands of warships. And how many of those thousands will survive contact with human forces? Sujin asked. Your ships are designed to fight enemies you can see using weapons you understand. We have proven that your technology and tactics are inadequate against human warfare. Veltara could not deny it. The battle footage showed clearly that Council forces had been completely outmatched. She changed approaches. Then let us avoid war entirely. The Council is prepared to offer humanity immediate membership with full rights and recognition of all existing colonies. Sung Ho leaned forward. In exchange for what? The Council wishes to understand human stealth technology and your kinetic weapons systems. Sharing this knowledge would benefit all species and strengthen galactic security. Dr. Hyunwoo laughed softly. You want us to give you the technology that makes us equals, so you can maintain your dominant position. I prefer to think of it as mutual benefit, Veltara said. Here is humanity's counteroffer, President Sung Ho said. We will join the Council, but only if the Council agrees to fundamental reforms. Veltara had not expected this. What kind of reforms? The current system concentrates power in the hands of the strongest species, while marginalizing weaker ones. That system is unjust and ultimately unstable. Humanity demands equal representation for all member species regardless of military strength or resources. That would require rewriting the entire Council charter, Veltara protested. Yes, it would, Sung Ho agreed. We also demand protection for refugee populations. The Riltans, who you conquered and displaced, now live peacefully on Mars under human protection. Their story suggests the Council has committed similar acts against other species. These injustices must end. The Riltan situation was a resource dispute, Veltara began, but Sung Ho cut her off. It was conquest disguised as mediation. We will not join an organization that oppresses the weak while claiming to promote peace. Veltara felt her carefully prepared negotiation strategy collapsing. You are asking the Council to fundamentally change its nature. That will take time and extensive debate. Then we will wait, Sung Ho said. Humanity has been patient for 4 centuries. We can be patient a while longer. But understand this, we will not stop expanding. We will not submit to restrictions we never agreed to accept, and we will defend any species seeking refuge from Council oppression. That sounds like a declaration of war, Veltara said quietly. No, Sung Ho replied. It is a declaration of independence. The Council may accept that humanity has the right to exist free from your control, or you may try to force us back into submission. But if you choose the second path, remember what happened to your enforcement fleet and ask yourself if you truly want that war. Veltara left Earth with much to report and much to think about. She had come expecting to negotiate from a position of strength. Instead, she found herself facing a species that refused to be intimidated and had the capability to back up their defiance. While Veltara traveled back to the Council chambers, another crisis erupted. News reached Earth that the Vaxil Imperium, humiliated by the destruction of their forces at New Sol, had begun systematic attacks on Riltan refugee populations in the territories they controlled. Thousands of Riltans were being killed in what the Vaxil called security operations. President Sung Ho faced a difficult choice. Humanity had just declared they would defend refugees from Council aggression. But intervening would mean directly attacking a Council member species. It would make war inevitable. Admiral Bora requested a private meeting with the President. Sir, we cannot stand by while the Vaxil commit genocide. Everything we said to Ambassador Veltara becomes meaningless if we do nothing. I know, Sung Ho said tiredly, but once we act, there is no going back. The Council will have no choice but to respond with full force. They were always going to respond with full force eventually, Bora pointed out. The question is whether we are going to be the species that only talks about defending the weak, or the species that actually does it regardless of cost. Sung Ho made his decision. Begin planning the rescue operation. We will extract as many Riltans as possible, and may history judge us kindly for what we are about to start. 12 Terran warships, commanded by Admiral Bora herself, jumped into Riltan space 3 days later. They found Vaxil occupation forces attacking Riltan settlements with overwhelming brutality. The human ships did not bother with warnings or negotiations. They simply opened fire. The Vaxil ships were older models, nowhere near as advanced as the enforcement fleet had been. They were designed for intimidation and occupation, not actual combat against a capable opponent. Within 2 hours, the Vaxil fleet was destroyed or retreating. Hidden in the outer reaches of the solar system, camouflaged among asteroids and comets, was a fleet of 300 advanced warships. The Incorpor Part 3, the Violation Governor Jae-hyun stood on the observation deck of the colony ship Pioneer's Dream and watched 3 new worlds appear on the view screen. They were beautiful planets orbiting different stars, all within 50 light-years of Earth. None of them belonged to the Council or any of its member species. They were unclaimed, waiting for someone to make them home. It was the year 2889, just 11 years before humanity's probation period would officially end. But Jae-hyun had convinced the Terran Assembly that waiting was a mistake. Humanity was ready now. The Council's restriction was unjust. It was time to move forward. 7 massive colony ships had left Earth 6 months ago. Each carried 50,000 people, along with everything needed to establish permanent settlements. 30 warships escorted them, commanded by some of humanity's best officers. They were not looking for a fight, but they were prepared for one. The first planet was designated New Sol. It had oceans, forests, and an atmosphere humans could breathe with only minor equipment. The second was Liberty Station, a world with vast mineral resources and 3 large moons. The third was Terra Nova, slightly colder than Earth but perfect for agriculture in its equatorial regions. Begin landing operations, Jae-hyun ordered. Around him, his staff moved quickly to coordinate the descent of thousands of colonists. This was the most carefully planned operation in human history. Nothing could go wrong. Within 3 days, all 3 colonies had established their first settlements. Prefabricated buildings rose quickly. Power generators came online. Agricultural stations began preparing soil for crops. Children played in parks while their parents worked to build new homes. It was humanity's dream realized. Expansion to the stars. For 3 years, the colonies thrived. New Sol's population reached 1 million. Liberty Station's mining operations began producing rare materials that Earth desperately needed. Terra Nova's farms proved even more productive than anyone had hoped. Ships traveled constantly between the colonies and Earth, bringing supplies and taking back resources. The Council did not seem to notice. Their monitoring systems were designed to watch Earth's solar system, not empty space dozens of light-years away. Humanity had been careful, using their stealth technology to hide ship movements and keeping communication on quantum channels that Council sensors could not detect. But eventually, luck ran out. A Council survey ship passed through the region and detected radio signals from New Sol. The crew investigated and found a thriving human colony on a world that should have been empty. The report reached the Council chambers within days. The reaction was immediate and severe. Chancellor Yilvera called an emergency session. The holographic representatives of 47 species appeared, all of them focused on a single question. How had humanity violated the quarantine, and what should be done about it? "This is an outrage," declared Representative Torvin of the Korth Dominion. The Korth were a warrior species, massive and heavily armored. They valued strength and despised weakness. The humans were given clear restrictions. They ignored our authority. They must be punished severely. "I agree," said Representative Silthar of the Draklin Empire. "If we allow one species to violate Council law without consequences, others will follow. Our authority will mean nothing." Yilvera studied the reports carefully. Something about the situation troubled her. How did they develop faster-than-light capability sufficient for colonization? Our last assessment showed human technology was primitive. This represents a massive advancement in just a few centuries. "Perhaps we underestimated them," suggested Representative Volkris of a smaller species. "Or perhaps they received help from another species." "From whom?" Torvin demanded. No Council species would dare aid a quarantined race. The penalties would be severe. The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Council voted to dispatch the enforcement fleet. 120 warships would travel to the human colonies with a simple mission: force the humans to evacuate within 24 hours, or remove them by force. War Master Krentok of the Vaxil species was given command. He was a veteran of dozens of peacekeeping operations against primitive species. This assignment seemed routine to him, perhaps even boring. Humans had 30 warships according to intelligence reports. The enforcement fleet had 120. The math was simple. This will be over quickly, Krentok told his officers as they prepared to depart. The humans will see our fleet and surrender immediately. No species is foolish enough to fight when outnumbered 4-1. The journey to New Sol took 2 weeks. When the enforcement fleet arrived, they found the human colony thriving. Cities covered parts of the main continent. Orbital stations hung in space above the planet. And 30 human warships waited in a defensive formation. Krentok broadcast his message on all frequencies. This is War Master Krentok of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. Humans of New Sol, you have violated Council law by establishing this colony. You have 24 hours to evacuate this world. If you do not comply, we are authorized to use force to remove you. This is your only warning. On the colony's surface, Governor Jaehyun received the message in his office. Around him stood military advisors, including Captain Minji, who commanded the destroyer Defiant. Her ship was one of the 30 defending the colony. What are your orders? Minji asked. Jaehyun looked at the tactical display showing 120 council ships against 30 human vessels. By any conventional assessment, this was a battle humanity could not win. But Jaehyun had spent years preparing for this moment. He knew something Krentok did not. Send our response, Jaehyun said calmly. Tell them no. The message was brief, just that single word. No. Krentok received it with disbelief. They refuse? Do they not understand the situation? We outnumber them 4-1. Perhaps they are counting on reinforcements, one of his officers suggested. From where? Earth is weeks away, and they only have 300 ships total according to our intelligence. Even if they sent everything, we can request additional forces. Krentok made his decision. Begin the attack. Target their military vessels first. Avoid civilian casualties if possible, but remove their ability to resist. The enforcement fleet moved forward in standard formation, their energy weapons charged, ready to fire. Council military doctrine was based on overwhelming firepower applied directly. They would destroy the human warships quickly, then land troops on the planet to oversee the evacuation. Then something unexpected happened. The 30 human ships vanished from sensors. Report, Krentok demanded. Where did they go? Unknown, sir. All 30 vessels have disappeared from our tracking systems. It is as if they simply ceased to exist. Krentok felt the first stirring of concern. Impossible. Ships that size cannot hide. Increase sensor power. Find them. The Council fleet searched, but their sensors found nothing. Minutes passed. Then hours. The human ships were simply gone. Perhaps they retreated, an officer suggested. They may have fled the system entirely. Then we proceed with landing troops, Krentok decided. If their military abandoned the colony, the civilians will have no choice but to evacuate. As the Council fleet began positioning for planetary approach, the human ships struck. They appeared without warning, already firing. The first Council ship to die was the cruiser Harmony's voice. A tungsten rod moving at 20% of light speed struck it amidships. The Council's energy shields did nothing against solid matter at that velocity. The rod punched through the hull like paper, and the ship exploded. Before Krentok could react, 5 more ships were hit. Then 10. The human vessels appeared on sensors for only seconds at a time, just long enough to fire before vanishing again. Their weapons were not the expected energy beams or plasma torpedoes. They were simple metal projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Return fire, Krentok ordered, but his ships had nothing to target. The humans were using some kind of stealth technology that Council sensors could not penetrate. They struck from unexpected angles, fired their kinetic weapons, and disappeared before Council ships could respond. Captain Minji commanded her destroyer from the bridge, watching tactical displays that showed Council ships struggling to find targets. Her crew worked with perfect coordination, years of training paying off in this moment. Next target, lock and fire, Minji ordered. Her ship's railgun fired another tungsten rod. 3 seconds later, a Council destroyer erupted in flames. Stealth system engaged, moving to position 7, her navigator reported. The Defiant vanished from Council sensors again, relocating to a different part of the battlefield. This was the doctrine Admiral Su Jin had developed during centuries of preparation. Do not fight directly. Strike and fade. Use stealth to avoid enemy fire. Use kinetic weapons to bypass their defenses. Make every shot count. The battle continued for 6 hours. The Council fleet, designed for direct engagement with visible enemies, struggled against opponents they could not see. They fired blindly at suspected positions, wasting energy and ammunition. Meanwhile, human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, each appearance meaning another council vessel damaged or destroyed. Krentok. Part 2. The Quiet Centuries. The news of the rejection spread across Earth within hours. People reacted in different ways. Some felt angry. Others felt humiliated. Many simply felt disappointed that humanity's grand dream of joining the galactic community had been crushed so completely. But something unexpected happened in the months after Captain Day-One returned home. Instead of giving up, humanity became focused in a way it had never been before. The rejection became a challenge that united the entire species. World leaders met in Geneva for an emergency summit. For the first time in history, every nation on Earth sent representatives. They had a simple question to answer. What should humanity do now? The debates lasted for weeks. Some wanted to ignore the council entirely and expand anyway. Others suggested humanity should focus on internal development and forget about the stars. But slowly a consensus emerged. Humanity would accept the council's probation, but only on the surface. Behind the scenes, Earth would prepare for the day when they would return to the council and demand respect. The Terran Assembly was formed within a year. It was not a world government in the traditional sense. Each nation kept its independence. But they all agreed to work together on specific goals: advancing technology, building a unified military, and preparing for eventual expansion into the galaxy. Dr. Hyun-woo was a young physicist working at the Lunar Research Institute when the rejection happened. He had been studying quantum mechanics, trying to understand how information could travel faster than light. The council had told humanity their technology was primitive. That statement bothered Hyun-woo more than anything else. For 3 years, he worked with almost no sleep. His colleagues worried about him. His family barely saw him. But Hyun-woo was obsessed with proving that human science could match anything the council possessed. His breakthrough came during a late-night experiment. He discovered that quantum entanglement could be controlled and directed in ways previous scientists had thought impossible. The result was quantum entanglement communication, or QEC. It allowed instant communication across any distance without needing relay stations or infrastructure. When Hyun-woo presented his discovery to the Terran Assembly, he explained it in simple terms. The Council's communication systems require massive relay stations positioned throughout space. They need to maintain this infrastructure constantly. Our QEC system needs nothing but 2 linked devices. We can communicate from Earth to the edge of the galaxy instantly, with no way for anyone to intercept or block the signal. It was humanity's first major technological advantage over Council species, but Hyun-woo and the Assembly kept it secret. There would be time to reveal human advances later. For now, the less the Council knew, the better. Admiral Soo-jin had been a naval captain when the rejection occurred. She had listened to the Council's assessment of human military forces with barely controlled rage. The Council had called humanity violent, but then dismissed human military capability as insignificant. The contradiction bothered her. She was promoted to admiral and given a secret assignment: design a military force that could defend humanity against the Council if necessary. Soo-jin knew that conventional warfare would be suicide. The Council had thousands of warships, energy weapons that could destroy planets, and soldiers from species that were naturally stronger and tougher than humans. So Soo-jin focused on unconventional approaches. She studied every military conflict in human history, looking for examples of weaker forces defeating stronger ones. She found her answers in guerrilla warfare, ambush tactics, and deception. "We cannot match their strength," she told her staff, "so we will not try. We will build ships they cannot see, use weapons they do not expect, and fight in ways their military doctrines cannot anticipate." The result was a new generation of warships built in secret facilities hidden throughout the solar system. These ships were smaller than Council vessels, but incorporated stealth technology that made them nearly invisible to standard sensors. They carried kinetic weapons, simple railguns that fired dense metal projectiles at tremendous speeds. Council ships had powerful energy shields designed to stop lasers and plasma weapons, but shields were less effective against solid objects moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Soo-jin also implemented something the Council had never developed: true artificial intelligence for combat. Council species had strong restrictions on AI, fearing it might become dangerous. Humans had fewer concerns. AI tactical systems could process information and make decisions faster than any organic mind. In battle, that speed would be decisive. Director Kyung-hee worked on what seemed like a softer problem, but was perhaps the most important. She had to ensure that humanity's unity lasted beyond the initial response to rejection. History showed that alliances formed in crisis often collapsed once the immediate danger passed. Kyung-hee developed what she called unity through diversity. Instead of trying to force everyone to be the same, she emphasized the value of different cultures and perspectives working toward common goals. Every human colony, every research station, every military base included people from different backgrounds. They learned to work together not by erasing differences but by respecting them. The council said we were too fractured, Kyung-hee often said in her speeches. They were right. But they made a mistake. They assumed we could never change. They did not understand that humans are capable of learning and adapting faster than species that live for thousands of years. Time passed. Decades turned into centuries. Children who had been born on the day of the rejection grew old and died. Their grandchildren had children of their own. The council became almost mythical to many humans, a distant threat that seemed less real with each passing generation. But the work continued. Research labs on Earth, Mars, and the moons of Jupiter made breakthrough after breakthrough. The military trained constantly, running simulations of battles against hypothetical council forces. Humanity built and waited. In the year 2683, something unexpected happened. A damaged spaceship entered the solar system, broadcasting a distress signal. It was not human, and it was not from any council species that Earth's databases recognized. Captain Minji commanded the patrol ship that intercepted the vessel. She found a crew of desperate aliens, their ship barely functioning, many of them injured. They called themselves Riltans, and they had a story that changed everything humanity thought about the council. The Riltans had been an independent species living peacefully on their home world. They had developed space travel and established several colonies. Then the council found them. The council offered membership, but with conditions. The Riltans would have to give up control of their resource-rich colonies. They would have to contribute a large percentage of their population to work in council industrial facilities. Essentially, they would become servants to the council's dominant species. When the Riltans refused, the council declared them obstacles to galactic harmony and invaded. The war was brief and brutal. Council forces killed millions. The Riltan government surrendered and their world was occupied. But some Riltans escaped. They had been running for months when their ship began failing. Earth's solar system was the nearest place they could reach. The leader of the refugees was an engineer named Tolvin. He met with representatives of the Terran assembly and shared everything he knew about the council. The information was disturbing. The council is not what they pretend to be, Tolvin explained. They speak of peace and cooperation, but they rule through fear. Species join voluntarily only because they know what happens to those who refuse. The council takes resources from weaker species and claims it is for the common good. They maintain their power through military force, but they call it peacekeeping. President Sung-ho listened carefully. He was Earth's leader, chosen by the assembly for his wisdom and careful decision-making. How many species has the council conquered or destroyed? We do not know the exact number, Tolvin said. The council controls information carefully. They erase the records of species that resist too strongly. But from what we gathered, at least 30 species have been forcibly subjugated in the last 1,000 years alone. The Terran assembly faced a choice. They could turn away the Riltans and maintain their quiet isolation, or they could offer sanctuary and risk drawing council attention. The vote was not close. Humanity offered the Riltans asylum. They would live on Mars, which was being terraformed slowly. In exchange, the Riltans shared their technical knowledge and their experience with council military tactics. Tolvin became an advisor to Admiral Su-jin. He helped her understand how council forces operated, their standard tactics, their weaknesses. The council has not fought a real war in centuries, he explained. They have only conducted police actions against species that cannot effectively resist. Their military is powerful but predictable. They assume overwhelming force will always be enough. More years passed. The Riltans integrated into human society. The first children born to Riltan parents on Mars grew up speaking human languages and learning human history. They became a living reminder of why Earth's preparation mattered. By 2850, humanity had built something unprecedented. Part 1. The rejection. Captain Day Wan stood in the center of the Grand Council chamber, trying not to show his nervousness. The room was enormous, built on a scale that made humans feel small and insignificant. Above him, holographic representations of 47 alien species floated in a massive circle. Some looked like they had too many arms. Others had skin that glowed with strange colors. A few didn't even have faces that Day One could recognize. He had practiced his speech for months during the journey to this place. Behind him stood 3 other humans from Earth. Chief Engineer Hana adjusted her uniform one more time. She had built half the systems on their ship and knew every detail of human technology. Beside her was Tae-sung, who had spent his entire career studying alien life forms. The 4th member was Ji-won, a military advisor who had served in 3 different conflicts back on Earth. All of them had been chosen because they were the best humanity had to offer. The journey to reach this moment had taken 6 months of travel through space. They had crossed distances that would have seemed impossible just a century ago. Earth had finally developed faster-than-light engines, something the Council had possessed for thousands of years. Now humanity wanted to join the galactic community. They wanted to trade with other worlds, share knowledge, and take their place among the stars. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. It belonged to Imperator Threndax of the Vaxil species. The Vaxil looked like massive reptiles that walked on 2 legs. Threndax was ancient, perhaps thousands of years old. His species could live for ages that made human lifespans look like brief flickers of light. "The Council has reviewed your application," Threndax said. His voice was cold and formal. "We have examined your technology, your history, and your civilization." Daewon felt his heartbeat faster. This was it. This was the moment that would decide humanity's future among the stars. "The Council has reached a decision," another voice added. This one belonged to Chancellor Ylvera of the Morvians. The Morvians were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shift between different shades of blue and purple. They were known for their intelligence and their skill at mathematics and science. "Humanity's petition for membership is denied." The word hit Daewon like a physical blow. Denied. He had prepared himself for questions, for negotiations, even for a probationary period. But outright denial had not seemed possible. Earth had worked so hard to reach this point. "May we know the reasons?" Daewon asked, keeping his voice steady despite the shock. Threndax gestured with one clawed hand, and screens appeared in the air around them. They showed images of Earth, cities burning during old wars, polluted oceans and dying forests, graphs showing crime rates and conflicts between different nations. "Your species is too primitive," Threndax explained. "Your technology is thousands of years behind Council standards. You have only just developed basic faster-than-light travel. Many Council species achieved this level of advancement during what you would call prehistoric times." Ylvera added more. "Your society is fractured. Even now your world has over 200 separate governments. You fight among yourselves over resources, territory, and beliefs. The Council requires member species to demonstrate unity and stability." More images appeared. These showed human military forces, weapons, and historical battles. "You are a violent species," Threndax continued. "In your last 500 years alone, you have fought 3 global wars that killed hundreds of millions. Many species in the Council have not experienced war in thousands of years." Hana stepped forward slightly. "We have learned from those mistakes," she said. "Humanity has made great progress in the last century. We have reduced conflicts and worked together on global problems." "Perhaps," Ylvera said, but her tone suggested she did not believe it. "But the Council must also consider what advantages each species brings. Some species have natural psychic abilities that allow instant communication across vast distances. Others have bodies that can survive in the vacuum of space without protection. Some live for thousands of years and accumulate wisdom across generations." She paused, and Daewon felt what was coming next would be the worst part. "Humans possess no such advantages. You are biologically unremarkable. You have average intelligence, average lifespans, and no special abilities. Your bodies are fragile and require constant protection from even mild environmental changes. In the assessment of this Council, humanity offers nothing of unique value to the galactic community." The word stung more than any weapon could have. Unremarkable. Average. Nothing of value. Tae-sung spoke up. His voice showing anger he tried to hide. We may not have natural advantages, but we have creativity. We have adaptability. Humans have survived on a difficult world and reached the stars through determination and innovation. Many species make similar claims, Threndak said, sounding bored. The Council has heard these arguments countless times from countless primitive worlds. Some of those species are now extinct. Others destroyed themselves within a few centuries of developing space travel. The pattern is well documented. Then what do you propose? Daewon asked. Are we to be forever isolated? Ylvera's expression might have been sympathy, though it was hard to tell on an alien face. The Council offers humanity a probationary status. You will remain within your solar system for 500 years. During this time, you may develop your civilization and technology. You may colonize Mars and the moons of your outer planets, but you are forbidden from expanding beyond your home star system. 500 years, Jiwon said, speaking for the first time. That is 20 generations for humans. It is a brief moment for the Council, Threndax replied. If humanity survives this period and demonstrates sufficient advancement, your descendants may petition for membership again. Many species have benefited from such guided isolation. And if we refuse? Daewon asked, though he already knew the answer. Then the Council will enforce the restriction. Threndak said simply. We have protocols for such situations. Enforcement fleets patrol the galaxy to maintain order and protect established trade routes. Any unauthorized expansion by humanity would be met with corrective measures. The threat was clear even though the words were polite. Step beyond your solar system and Council warships would come. They would force humanity back or perhaps destroy human colonies entirely. Daewon looked at his three companions. Hana's jaw was tight with frustration. Taesung looked like he wanted to argue more, but knew it would be pointless. Jiwon's expression was carefully neutral, but her eyes showed calculation. She was already thinking about what this meant from a military perspective. The Council has spoken, Daewon said finally. Humanity accepts your decision. It was a lie, of course. He accepted nothing. But there was no point in showing defiance here, not when they were millions of light years from home and surrounded by species that could destroy Earth with ease. As the human delegation turned to leave, Daewon heard voices from some of the Council members. They were not trying to be quiet. Perhaps they did not think humans could understand their languages, or perhaps they simply did not care. Another failed species, one voice said. They will probably destroy themselves within 200 years, another added. Such a waste of time. Why did we even agree to see them? Daewon kept walking. He kept his back straight and his expression calm. But inside, something burned. It was not just anger at the rejection. It was not just humiliation at being called unremarkable. It was something else, something that would shape everything that came after. It was determination. The Council had made a mistake. They had judged humanity by what they were now, not by what they could become. They had looked at human weakness and seen only failure. They had missed something essential about the species they had just rejected. Humans did not accept limitations well. Tell a human something is impossible, and they will spend their lives proving you wrong. Tell humanity they are inferior, and they will work for generations to demonstrate otherwise. As their ship left the Council station and began the long journey back to Earth, Daewon gathered his team in the conference room. We are going home, he said quietly, and we are going to make sure that in 500 years, when humanity returns to this Council, they will not dare to call us unremarkable ever again. Hana smiled for the first time since the rejection. So what do we tell people back home? We tell them the truth, Daewon said. We tell them the galaxy thinks we are inferior. And then we prove them wrong.